So timelines are collapsing. What does this actually mean? How do you deal with it? How you get to the other side? And I would say essentially, how do you really become the silver lining that we search for in so many other things and other aspects and whatever outside of ourselves? So this video is predominantly about you. The world has been a lot about other people, but it's time to bring it home and to really have this honest conversation. So welcome, I'm Adrian Nelson. This is my best friend, Alandra Coleman, and we just want to share our thoughts with you.
Absolutely. It's so lovely to be here, Adrian. Thank you for inviting me on. Lots to talk about. You know, there's a lot happening in the world at the moment. I think many people actually label this year sort of like the chaos year, the year of unfolding. But there's so many ways that we can handle situations better, whether we at whatever level of consciousness we are, whether we're not even, in tune with ourselves or in line with ourselves. There's so many things we can do to not fully attach to. There's a sort of division happening in the world at the moment.
No point in denying it.
Yeah. There's a lot of national elections taking place in different countries. That all adds to a collective consciousness. Sometimes we react or have emotions that, because like it or not, let's just say you're in a room with a lot of angry people, okay? There's no way you're going to walk out of that room with a smile on your face. It is going to affect you. This is where we have to be more mindful as to no longer who are we, like who am I, but who do I want to be?
And who can
do
I
choose
become?
to be?
Yeah.
And who do I want to present as in this world? Fine, you're walking out of a room, and we're just using this as an analogy. With a lot of angry people, the moment we get out the door, we take a deep breath, we recenter, and we're like, okay, I already decided that this is who I want to be. Yeah. So let me put a smile on my dial, not attached to it, and continue being who I choose to be. Does that even make sense?
Yes, and you know what? I would also actually say that, when you're in a room and the room has affected you. I mean, if the room affected you, the room affected you. If you go to a place where people are getting married and everybody's going to be happy, even if you walked in there and you didn't want to be there, you're probably going to be happy. And if you go to a funeral, you're going to feel it because the energy is heavy. And I think this is a time to, when you're in a space that is really hitting your heart, to get to that space and to the outside and say, well, I didn't really like that. I don't like the way that it affected me, but what is it making me feel? What is it that I choose? Instead of saying, well, those low vibers don't work for me. Those are terrible people.
Or are these emotions actually mine?
Yes.
Or have I carried them with me? And what we're talking about, we're using analogies here, but we're talking about the unfolding and everything that's happening in the world at the moment. Like I said, there's a lot of national elections taking place.
There's a lot of fear.
There's a lot of fear and uncertainty, more uncertainty than probably ever before, because we don't really know where we're heading. We never know where we're heading. We live life uncertain. But this is why we're using these analogies so that we can help to help people better to understand that we are who we choose to be. And the only thing about that is being mindful of it. I love to use mirrors as an analogy because I've learned a lot through mirrors. So, for instance,
sorry, just a second before you go into that. Before you even listen to us, think of it. Even if you want to pause this video and make sure that you come back to it, go look in a mirror and go look in your own eyes and go see what experience you are having from that. And then you come back to the video.
So here's the thing. Here we go. We got a mirror here. Okay?
That is showing your whole apartment.
That's showing, and it doesn't really matter. But mirrors are actually very important. In actual fact, I shared something with Adrian recently and with other people. I've stationed a full-length mirror near my front door, because it is helping me to discover more about myself, what my energy levels are when I'm leaving home, what my energy levels are when I return home.
That's a good one.
Yes, and there's a thing that you're not forcing. You're going to do this authentically. If you're having a crappy day and you're leaving the door in a crappy mood, it's okay. But at least you've seen yourself and you're mindful of it. Because everything in consciousness, in the lives that we live, has a mirror effect. Okay? So, for instance, going back to the mirror work now, like Adrian said to you, go look at yourself in the mirror. Go see what your mood currently is. Don't try to fake it. It's not about
judging yourself. It's about observing.
Yeah. Then, when you look at the mirror is not going to smile back at you unless you actually smile. Okay? So you can choose, am I going to leave the mirror with that smile, or am I going to go back to what the mirror is not responsive to? The mirror is not smiling, so am I going to choose not to smile for the rest of the day, the time? Is that going to be my mood? And it's perfectly okay to have down moods. I do not buy into the whole positive culture. I feel I think Adrian's the same way. It's important to process emotion. It's important to process the way that we're feeling, so that when we do that, we've identified something. And it's in the identifying of something that we can choose to change it or not. But we can only do that until we identify that. So by just switching over to a positive mindset, and there's a role for a positive mindset, and it plays a very important role.
As well as a negative mindset.
But so does a negative mindset. And so just remember that whatever is going on around you, in your environment, at your workplace, in the world, with whatever may be happening in the world, we don't want to get too specific on that. It has to happen. It's the way of the world identifying things that need to change.
And the world is an evolutionary thing, same as human beings. Can't expect it to be the same. It has to change. Because if it doesn't change, it gets dull and boring, and there's no point to being here. And around every 100 years, the world changes in any case. And for any of you that used to watch Downton Abbey, people lost their minds completely because all of a sudden there were microwave ovens. Oh my Lord, what is going to happen?
And electricity.
Yeah. So even though things are quote unquote falling apart, it is just evolution, and you are part of life, and life will always take care of life. And it's okay to be scared. I've completely abducted your conversation.
No, go on. It's I like it, yeah.
But it's okay to be scared. In fact, it's healthy to be scared. And I want you to think of this conversation as more of a holistic wellness conversation, and then determining, or at least putting the effort to determine, what does holistic wellness mean to you? For some people it's lighting candles and incense, and for other people it's going to a holiday on Mauritius or whatever. It is a personal thing. But something to also bear in mind is when you leave home, if you do the mirror thing, which I think is a brilliant idea, I'm just going to do
That's amazing.
So how do you feel, and why do you feel that when you come back? The thing to remember is whatever you are angry about, irritated about, sad about, irked about, whatever it is, whatever really happened, whatever transpired through the day, it usually triggered something inside of you that's already been there. So you might be angry at one person, but when you really think about it, and you really see this when you watch other people fight, they hardly ever fight what they're fighting about. They say, well, you did this, and then you say, well, this person in the office did this and this and that, and they did this to me, and everybody always does that to me, and this has been the way all my life. So the question is, are you really just upset about the one instance, or you're upset about everything that has happened all your life? Because, you know what, I always say this, that when you are angry, when you're upset, when you're irritated, when you all those what we call negative emotions, and this is what can be so positive about it, when you can really sit back and think about what were the words that were coming out, what were the feelings, what were the emotions, what were the thoughts, you actually get to see what your subconscious beliefs are about yourself. You want to know what those things are. Because everybody wants to walk into their light, and everybody wants to walk into their power, and everybody's this goddess and this light, and those things are all really, really cool. But we are here right now at this particular point in time, in the middle of this change, and it is our personal beliefs that you chose to come here. So since you chose to come here and you were aware of the way the cookie would crumble, a good question to maybe ask yourself, and I do this with my clients a lot, so if you can just for a moment buy into the idea that you chose to come here at this particular point in time, you had a very good idea what the cookie was going to do, why do you think you may have chosen to come here? Because there's so many people that are saying, I will never come to this planet again. Fuck this planet. Done with it. Last incarnation. I can tell you for a fact that I am more interested than ever to come back to this planet again because things are happening.
But we're human. We're going to have those moments in our lives where we feel like we just don't want to do this anymore.
Yes.
Because the heat is on. But let me tell you something. There's tremendous healing in crisis points. Without the breakdowns, we can't have the breakthroughs. Okay? There's tremendous, tremendous healing when we hit rock bottom. Because then we've identified, in the F this and that, something needs to change.
Yeah.
And the only way to change it is to actually action that change.
Yes.
And you know what? We're talking about holistic wellness here. But I think ultimately, everybody wants to live a happy life, a joyous life, a peaceful life, whether that's out dancing with friends or doing whatever it is that you do. I think ultimately we all just want to be happy. And this is why we're talking on topics like this, because whether you're aware of it or not, other people's energy is going to affect us either way. Even if you put yourself in a bubble out in the middle of the forest or something, it's still going to affect you. It's collective consciousness, it's energy, it's movable, it is constantly changing, and it's changing based on people's thought structures, decisions. There's a power in words, there's power in thoughts. Half the time, we don't even realize that we are what we're thinking.
Yeah.
That those thoughts are like collective thoughts. Maybe 1 million of the 8 million people in this, 8 billion people, whatever it is in this world, are thinking the same thing at the same time. But we don't realize that because we often think that people are thinking about us. But I can guarantee you this. The first person you're thinking about
It's true.
is you. That's the first
And that's
person.
how it should be.
You're thinking about you, you're thinking about your family, you're thinking about your debts, you're thinking about work, you're thinking about what you're doing next, where you're going, whatever. Only then do you have time to think of the Joneses next door. And if you are thinking about the Joneses next door that are consuming your thoughts, then maybe you want to start asking yourself some questions. And maybe the Joneses are doing really well, and perhaps you're not doing so well. Well, it's because you may be focusing on the Joneses and not focusing on yourself, whereas the Joneses are focusing on themselves, and so they're getting ahead.
So what are you really upset about?
Which life do you want to live? Maybe ask the Joneses, listen, I see you guys have just repaved your driveway, how did you manage to get the funding for that? Maybe you'll find out that Mr. Jones has been working day and night to afford that. Mm-hmm. And now you know the tip, So we can get wrapped up very, very much in our own bubbles. I don't think we're off the topic. I think we're still on the topic. But this is basically back to the collapse of timelines. We're now in a stage where timelines are shifting. A lot of stuff is unfolding. Instead of who am I, who do I now choose to be? Who do I want to be? And making decisions based on that. Because to be something, we have to feel a certain way. We have to be that way, to become that.
To feel it, you also have to be very clear about what is it that you are actually feeling.
Yeah.
So, we have this idea that if you are the holistic practitioner, the whatever community leader, spiritualist, religious leader, whatever it is, that you're supposed to be this shining beacon of unmistakable light that, is always just perfect and right. But that's not realistic. That is not what being human is. So you might find yourself not really, you've never really been like a jealous person or anything like that. And all of a sudden you might find yourself being outright envious of someone else. And then instead of saying, well, I shouldn't do that, I should like hit myself over the fingers, you want to sit like and ask yourself, well, where is this coming from? Are these even my thoughts? Might it just be somebody else's thoughts? Might it be somebody else's energy that you are picking up? Because think about it, the energy is everywhere. The fear is everywhere. And think of it as you being a tree. Whether you're a tree in a forest with like thousands of other trees, or you're a single tree on the lawn, if the wind is blowing, your leaves are going to be moving.
Yes.
It's going to affect you.
And one tree is going to grow above you, and one tree won't reach your height.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's so much to learn from nature. But listen, here's the thing. You got to have fun with life. When we take things too seriously, then we don't really know how to be in that state of surrender. There's certain things we can just laugh off, and there's certain things that it's important to process. Don't be so hard on yourself. I did a video on this week where I was saying to people, sometimes we make the wrong decisions that lead us to the right places in life.
Right.
Okay? Don't be so hard on yourself. Flow with it. Go with it. Have the sense of wonder. There's a magic to life. And life is incredible when you do learn how to, and this sounded horrible to me before I actually understood it. Adrian, I'm sure you might agree with this. Being detached from a situation.
It has been my challenge for years.
Doesn't mean you don't feel the situation, you're not empathetic towards the situation, you're not compassionate to the situation. It just means that you're not going to allow the situation to infiltrate your entire being, to take over your entire being. It means that you're able to observe the situation instead of become the situation. That's why it's no longer who am I, but more so who do I choose to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to present in this world?
When is the year that we used to work together in the same office? I can't remember.
2015.
2015. So I came across this idea with Louise Hay that is like, that over there's got nothing to do with me. It bothered me tremendously. I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. Like, I just couldn't. And then afterwards I realized that it was actually my own fear that was driving me, because I always had a savior mentality and I should save people and I should be there for everyone. But, people with savior mentality, all saviors are looking for someone to save them. And I was pretty much in full-blown saving mode at the time.
Let's just go a little bit deeper. Okay. This is for the people who actually understand timelines now. Everything is happening at once.
Yeah.
In every way. Let's just say we were Neanderthals and now we're sitting in 2024. It's all happening now.
You're still a Neanderthal. You're advanced.
It is all a soul. Before we even go to oneness, it's souls expressing themselves through awareness of that moment in what feels like time. But time is an illusion. I can even go on to talk about twin flames with this. I think I have had that discussion with you before. When that came to me, I do a lot of writing, and over the years that writing has sort of become like automated writing and helped me to understand a lot of things that I couldn't wrap my head around. So let's remember, 3D, 5D, whatever the case may be, it's still going to be happening now. There's only this moment. So what do I choose in this moment? How do I choose to be in this moment?
Because this moment is all that you have.
Am I going to hold on to the collective chaos? Or am I going to take a deep breath, release it, surrender to it, let it go, and concentrate on what's most important to me?
Yeah.
And life is important to us in different ways. Some people want to be fully spiritual. You know, they only want to live a certain way. Some people want to have more fun with life. That's important to them. Some people it's family and friends. Some people it's business. We all operate within what is in our highest congruency.
And there's 8 billion people in the world. There is about 8 billion different, consistently changing ideas of what being fully spiritual actually means. It's not a setting.
Exactly. Yo, we can go deep into this, but remember, it's all happening now.
I want you to think of this very quickly. So, when you think about it, so think of the Big Bang Theory. The sun imploding, exploding. You know, like a heartbeat in and out, breathing in and out. The whole vibe of how the universe works. So, breathing in and breathing out. The sun imploding and exploding, everything is created. Now, that one Big Bang can be a split of a second. It can also be eternally happening right now. So it's one idea, one expression, expressing itself in many different ways. And you might think, how is that possible? But if you kind of imagine about, say, maybe, I don't know, putting on a tea party. You are thinking of the tea party, the cake, the sauces, the napkins, the serviettes, all of those sort of things. But it's still one idea, expressing itself in many different ways. And when you think about it, inside of your body, we consist of trillions of cells that are all working together to create this one expression that is you. These are trillions of cells. That is trillions of cells. You are trillions of cells. And I always like to imagine that these cells are going about, they've got their own little life and they're doing their own little thing because they are live, they are intelligent. So you are literally hosting an entire universe inside of you. There's about 8 billion people in the world. You consist of trillions of cells. More people than there are on this entire planet. And when you compare that to the cells that are making up who you are. So when you look for a miracle, you really don't need to look any further than a mirror. Whether you choose to believe it or not.
You see, the thing is, there is nothing. Everything is created through the perception of awareness. Okay? So, there are already, and this is where our conditioning and our programming and our environments and collective consciousness, social stereotypes, the list goes on, all contribute towards that. Everything already is. It's our awareness of it through the perception that creates it. Am I going too deeply?
No, let's go a little deeper. So think about it like this. Earth has got, let's call it the universe, it's got so many different possibilities. But it's one idea expressing itself in different ways. So even though it's a broad open loop, it's still a closed loop. What goes up must come down. What goes down must come up. You know, when you think about it, if a tree grows, in order to go up successfully and not fall over, it also has to go down. So it has to go both ways. It's the divine dictum that goes both ways.
And not just up and down.
Sideways.
It's connected underneath. It's connected in the atmosphere because it receives the weather. That's why one tree doesn't care if the other tree is taller than it, smaller than it. The root systems are still feeding each other. The weather is feeding all of it. It's all one thing. And it's just like consciousness. Is it all happening now?
And so here's the thing. So yes, the world that we live in, it's a dream, it's a simulation, it's not real. But if you want to depress yourself very, very quickly, and I speak from, I think you've probably heard that as well, right? I speak from experience. Like, oh, well, nothing is real. I'm just going to chill it out. You kind of feel like there's no purpose in life. It is real because it's real for you. And this is your consciousness, this is your awareness, this is where you are. Now, this is what's becoming very confusing at the moment. I don't know if you want to share the thing that happened with the box and the cat the other day.
Yeah.
Where I mean, I kind of put you on the spot now.
No, I don't mind.
Because here's the thing, and so before we go to the box and the cat, so this has been happening with us.
We have plenty of these experiences. We just really we share them with each other, but not really with anybody else.
I think this is probably like it started before the pandemic. And here's the thing about the pandemic: the pandemic was an incredibly healing thing because it made it undeniably clear that shit's got to change. It's not going to be the same, and it's not going to go back. But we had this experience. So I would be living in the apartment with my friend, with Alandra, and then we'd go to the beach, which is just down the road. And we'll have this experience, as I shared it in a video that I did the other day, where there's a lot of it's almost like a strip basically, lots of apartments and shops and hotels and things like that. And it'll maybe be like 7 o'clock at night, and it's winter, so it's dark. And there wouldn't be one single light on in any apartment.
Especially during that Aquarius full moon.
Yes, I forgot about that. And then, either I would pick it up and she would pick it up and we mention it to each other and we somehow look away and go away, and look back, and then the lights are on. Or you will have, I remember this one that was really freaking one day where there's all these palm trees by the beach, and these palm trees were all blowing like really ferociously, except for one. That tree didn't move at all. We were like, what is this, an alien trying to disguise itself as a tree, or what's going on? But then when you become aware of the glitch, then...
But what was so weird is that there was no wind. That's the thing.
Oh, yes.
Remember there was no wind.
Yes. So there was no wind.
But
all the trees were blowing except for one.
Profusely.
And we actually said, because we used to drink quite a lot in our younger years, we were like, thank God we stopped drinking.
Yeah, we were so pleased we had stopped drinking, because now we're starting to have these experiences. Like, Adrian, didn't this man just pass us?
Yes.
And then you're like, yeah, they did pass us. You see so many things, because everything's happening now.
Oh, I actually picked up something
parallels.
Yesterday. So I walk my dog every morning, as you should if you have a dog. And I remember that there is a service station that I pass every day. Now, it's quite a sort of like because I live sort of like more in the central part of Cape Town, so it's quite busy, people coming to work and stuff. And so yesterday, as I was moving towards the service station, I remember I've been living there for a couple of months now, almost a year actually. And I realized that I have seen cars inside of the service station. I have never seen fuel being put into any car ever. I have seen cars pull in, but I've never seen a car pull out before. And yesterday, for the first time when I walked past, 3 cars were getting fuel put in them. No cars were coming in, but 2 were coming out. So it's quite interesting that you begin to pick up these crazy things that are happening, and they're happening more and more and more, and they can be quite scary. You may think that you're losing your mind. And I've got nothing against the medical field at all. I feel that if you need medical help, if you need psychological help, you should get it. But you also want to be very mindful that if you do go and see professionals, they're going to find something to be wrong with you, or rather sort of like westernized, focused professionals, mostly. They're going to try to find something that's wrong with you, and they're probably going to want to medicate you.
Well, I think the mind is a marvelous thing. Sometimes it's just something playing out from our subconscious mind that's already there. See, I have more of the logical I like scientific answers. So I tend to go more towards the logical ideal of what's really happening here. And sometimes it's already in the subconscious mind and it's just playing out now. Yeah. Sometimes it's something that is actually happening in collective consciousness, like the timelines. Adrian and I have been going through this timeline thing for a while, since probably before the world shut down, just a little bit before the world shut down. I went through it like a lot when I went through 3 years. When I was going through 3 years of Kundalini code training, I saw the world in a very different way. Very, very different way. That I actually sort of shut it off. I needed to shut it off, not because of fear, because I wasn't ready.
And there's something very powerful in that. It's about seeing the world in a different way. The world hasn't changed. It's
still the world.
And that is the same thing with manifestation. You create nothing, you align with something. And so if everything is possible, everything must exist. Because if something doesn't exist, how on earth can it be possible in a closed loop? Let's not forget about the cat.
Yeah, I won't, because I also wanted to just go back to sometimes it's the subconscious mind playing out that's already there. It's a preconceived idea. It's something you heard, you listened to it in the subconscious mind. Now you're actually seeing it. Remember that whilst everything is one, there are individual expressions, and the people or the places or whatever have a role to play in it as well. Someone actually reminded me of that last night, because I was telling them about the experience I had when I was doing the shaman's journey, that I discussed the shaman's journey with you.
I'm actually quite interested in that.
But here's the thing, is that I was reminded that perhaps it was the other consciousness that invited me to be there. Let's just tell you the story. Okay. Because it's not going to make sense until I actually share the story with you. So I did a very short shaman's course, not very in-depth. It was more like a shaman toolbox. But because I've done Kundalini code training...
Well, actually, I would say maybe it was quite in-depth. It just wasn't that in-depth for you because you already had a very solid foundation. Yes,
I had the foundation. I understood what was going on. I just wanted to learn the principles of Mother Nature, of Gaia in the shamanic journey. And it was really totally interesting. And I think it was the second day I was doing it. I was sitting outside on my balcony, and for a moment in time, I found myself in a cave. It was a crystal cave. It had very specific, what do you call it, hieroglyphs or symbology that was related to like Native American. It came to me afterwards. I think it's the Lakota tribe. I'm not 100% sure.
I actually saw a picture like that on Instagram.
But there was very specific symbols, and it took me, I only actually got it like a year later during automated writing, what it was all about. So I, of course, think logically and scientifically, but I was reminded last night that maybe I was invited into their consciousness. Remember, it's all happening now. Maybe I was already...
So we're becoming more aware of what is happening. The sort of individualized experience.
Yeah.
Maybe it's taken on a different form because it's still individualized.
Look, it's an individual expression of the same consciousness.
Yeah, you're just becoming aware of more.
Through perception of awareness.
Yeah.
So the more aware you become, the more you'll see, the more you'll feel, the more you understand, the more knowing you have, the more understanding of life you have. These were things that were bizarre to us.
You're getting nothing new.
We didn't understand.
It's like, remember this one time, I remember you had a hypnosis session with me and you got into the cab and you were like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing this thing.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I understand that it's scary, but you're not seeing something that you maybe like, people always have this idea that you drew it into your experience. It was always there.
It was always there.
You just didn't see it before.
Yeah.
It's like people that are sort of like developing their psychic muscles. The spirits were always there. They were never not there. The deceased loved ones...
They're still here.
It's like people say to me, can you speak to my deceased loved ones? Yes, I can, but I promise you they don't really have something all that interesting to say. How are you? I'm cool, I'm good, it's fine. That's it.
Yeah.
You can learn how to do that. Don't let nobody tell you can't.
So let's tell them about
Let's get back to the point. well, weren't you still talking about the cave thing?
The cave.
Sorry.
Okay, so what I wanted to explain is other people have roles in what's happening to you as well. When I say roles, I mean a different expression. It could be an expression of you. It could be a past timeline, which we think of as a past timeline, but it's actually taking place right now. There's so many factors when you do look into it and start to have an awareness of it. And this is why we say we're talking about the timelines collapsing, because everything's happening now. There is no collapse. There's an evolutionary change that's taking place in our perception of the timelines. The timelines have always been evolving, but it's almost like there's a speed up, so much so that we have no choice but to have a perception of it right now.
It is you becoming aware of you. Because, we have this idea, for example, people always had this idea that there's a hierarchy of, I suppose, existence. And humans blow my mind, but humans are like the wisest above them all. And then, you come down and then there's like animals and plants and stuff like that. But if it's just one expression, then, in order to have this individualized expression, you need other individuals, otherwise it's not individual. So when your cat comes into your life, the cat is just a different perception, a different version of what you are part of. It's not separate. There isn't a hierarchy of different things, because that will imply that some part of the one idea is superior to the other part of the one idea, which will literally mean that it's not one idea.
I need the cat because the cat needs me, because I am the cat and the cat is
And I need something to love, or something to care for, or to open my heart. Or, for example, what I had a couple of months ago when I got my dog, I think I had him for like 8 months. And the dog got really, really sick, and I was just like, oh, well, that's it then. And I said to myself, are you really going to just say, oh, that's it? And I realized that I was so terrified of loving and losing what I love that I could just close my heart off just like that. So it may seem like nothing, the dog got sick, but if that experience didn't happen, I wouldn't have that realization, and I would still have that closed heart.
So let's tell you about the cat.
Because this is how this thing came about.
Okay, so I have a little outdoor area. Okay, it's an enclosed area, and I have a pool box. And my cat loves this pool box, so I got an Aquila box, an old water box, the cardboard box, and I put it outside for him on top of the pool box because there's not a lot of shade. So he still likes the sun, but he likes to be enclosed. Then I was in the kitchen, and then I heard like poof, 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 so automatically I think it's the cat. But the cat's here with me, the cat's in the kitchen, busy eating. This is not the first time this has happened. My cat has this way of disappearing, where you absolutely cannot find him.
Remember how mortified I was this one day?
Like you can see him in the box. He likes boxes. It's almost like you see him in the box, but you don't see him. And then a few hours later, he's still in that box. It's bizarre.
And so just quickly, just to put in there that, okay, so obviously this one day, I was home alone, and I was practically in tears. I can't find the cat. So here's the thing. You may think that, that maybe you in a different timeline or different dimension, because these dimensions are very similar. Or maybe the cat's in a different one, or maybe you both in different ones. You know what I mean?
Almost like, and I would have said to him if I had known, don't worry about it. When he wants to be found, he'll be found.
You did, and that made me angry because I'm like, this cat is gone.
Yeah, he has these moments where if he doesn't want to be seen or found, he just won't be seen or found. And it's normally those moments when you have to leave the house, when you're in a hurry, when he knows you're going out.
I actually needed to leave. I was so stressed.
Those sort of things. Okay, so back to the box. So it so happened that from the outdoor area, when I'd gone from the kitchen to the bedroom, the box was in the bedroom. So I show Adrian photos and I say to Adrian, then he reminded me of the timelines because I've been so busy. I've just been, guys, let me tell you something. Last year, probably last year and the year before, I gave up all rituals. And I did it for a reason, because I wanted to feel the human experience. Everything that comes with the human experience. It's easy for me to change something like that for myself. It's quite easy. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually feel it. And as a result, I had one of the hardest years of my life last year. I had perimenopausal symptoms. I was crying for everything. I had frozen shoulder. My sugar levels were so high. I don't think I've had a worse, that he was actually worried about me dying at some stage. Because,
and I just want to add with that, even though I was worried about the dying, human beings are self-preserving beings. I'll be honest with you. The thoughts that went to my mind is, we've been friends for more than 20 years. We've been going through so many things together. When I've got a problem, this is who I turn to. What am I going to do now? Those were my first thoughts.
Yeah.
like, see, that's what I was thinking about. What about me?
Yeah.
That's where my mind went.
And I, in turn, was thinking about, I just want to be human, you know? It's easy for me to go through Brahma's cave to 1,000 suns and beyond, but I chose that I didn't want to do that, and we have choices.
And Brahma's cave is like this very elevated sort of sense.
It's a breakthrough, essentially. It's basically your pineal gland is now open, your third eye is open, and you can astral surf, you can do whatever you choose to do. You can connect with super consciousness or even super consciousness.
And speaking about that, I also want you to be very careful, because there's a lot of, like, you know, more than ever there are people that are coming to me like, Adrian, I want to open my third eye. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not ready for it, it can be a very overwhelming experience. And to give you an idea, like a lot of times when people sort of take very strong drugs, something like something that's hallucinant, like say maybe like heroin, for example. You know, you're speaking about all the energies around and everything is one. And obviously they put you in the room with the soft walls because you've lost your mind. And in a sense you did, but you are becoming aware of a reality that you are not equipped, you're not ready to face it. So my advice to you is going to be to focus on grounding, focus on being human. Do the simple things. Meditate, walk around barefooted, look at your diet. Make sure you get good hydration. Look at your sleep.
Get your blood pumping.
Get your blood pumping. Look at the crowd that you keep. You know, don't now, I'm not saying that you must be a horrible person, but don't entertain those low vibes. You know, really take care of yourself. We are so open to take care of everybody else and to be there for everybody else, and we forget about ourselves. And I promise you, if you just focus on being human, because it's my personal belief that the most spiritual thing that you can do on this planet is to be human. Because that's what you came here for. That's your awareness.
I fully agree, because you see me I still did certain rituals, like certain things, but not intense. I didn't go into intense states. 1 or 2 meditations where I went to intense states. I did a lot of automated writing, journaling and so forth. You know, my baths that I do, because I have this thing. Let me share it with you since we are. When I was and am feeling like too overwhelmed, because I'm quite empathic and I can take on energy like easily if I'm not mindful of it. Then I feel like, if I'm really anxious, I fill the bath completely. You know, like just put a little bit of essence, not enough for it to, maybe some rose petals or something. But what I do is I lay with my ears under the water so that I can hear my heartbeat.
That actually really works. I've tried that. It's so powerful.
It's so incredible. If you really are looking for a way to ground quickly, and you feel like you can't go into meditation or life is just happening too fast for you, close your bathroom door, fill the bath as much as you can, make sure your ears are under the water.
Softer light.
You'll hear other sounds, but just focus on your heartbeat. And I promise you that's one of the most meditative baths you can do. Clear your mind. And I know it's hard to clear your mind, especially in those states. Focus, just listen.
And you don't have to push it. You're not trying to semi-drown yourself here.
Yeah.
You know, if you can only do it for 2 or 3 seconds, that's a good start.
Fine.
It's a good start.
We're not saying put your whole face underwater. We're just saying your ears need to be underwater. Your nose doesn't have to be underwater.
Actually, what I would do is I hold the hair back and I kind of like take a deep breath and I put my face and ears down for like about 20 seconds. But that's just something I like to do.
Now I do it the other way. On my back, water over there where I can still breathe. But then I do put it lower I just need my ears to hear my heartbeat. So here's another thing you can do when you're doing that. As a form of healing, this is something I learned from my guru as well, is so invite the light in while you're doing that. We're talking about benevolent light, source energy, the purest kind of love light. Invite that into the heart space. I promise you.
Even if you don't fully know what it is, it's just a willingness to be willing.
Yes, you will imagine it, okay? Just imagine that whether you refer to it as God, as your angels, as your elementals, benevolence, goodness, love, peace, joy, bliss.
What does holistic wellness mean to you?
Imagine that it's coming in. I like to use like golden white light. Okay? Coming through my body into my heart space. From there, I send it out through my feet. Take it back in through the ground. Doesn't matter whether I'm sitting, laying, whatever I'm positioned in. Bring it back from the ground. Bring it back from there. Let it meet in the heart center. If your ears are underwater, you will literally hear your heartbeat change its rhythm. Okay? Once it's changed its rhythm, wherever you're feeling pain in the body, if it's anxiety, it's normally in the head, it's normally in the lungs, it may play out in your shoulders, in your meridians, wherever it may be, your wrists. Send that energy. Just imagine it flowing through your veins, through your bloodstream to that area. When it's in that area, imagine it glowing. It's amplifying. And it's amplifying through your whole body. And then you release it. Now, I have a certain mantra that I use to release it, but you release it in any way. Now I let you go. Now I surrender. You're no longer in my reality. And it's part of the healing process. And it's really quick to do.
Yes.
You can do all of this in 5 minutes. I promise
Using your imagination to your benefit. When you really think about it, you can so easily use your imagination to drive you crazy. And
there
you do it consistently.
So many tools and techniques that you can use in the moment.
And if you want us to share more, let us know.
Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap up, so when you speak about timelines, it's different dimensions.
Can I stop you before you explain the timelines, please? I just want to remind you of this. Besides every other tool and technique, don't forget to breathe. Breath is life. Breathe. Don't worry what other people are doing around you. Breathe through your nose, because it's going to make a bigger difference than taking the energy in through your mouth. You can feel the difference. Different energy. You can actually feel it.
Breathe into the thoughts.
Breathe in through your nose. Bring it down into your abdomen area. Hold it for a little bit. Release it through the mouth. Okay? Take a deep breath. Just breathe. Breathe. Breathe for as long as it takes to just bring you to an equilibrium.
And you might think that it's crazy to do that in a crowd, but it's a lot less crazy than actively having a meltdown in a crowd. A lot less.
The more you do it, do you know that Buddhist monks are doing breathing exercises all the time and people don't even recognize it? You become so good at it that because you practice it, that people don't even know when you're doing it.
And you become calm.
But
so
you are
your
doing
presence actually sets other people at ease.
Yeah.
And because your presence sets them at ease, in the same way that if your presence sets them at dis-ease, because your presence sets them at ease, the experience is automatically more pleasurable for everyone, including you. So you actually end up having a better life.
And there's nothing wrong with walking away from the crowd to go do this. There's nothing wrong with it.
This is not for me.
Okay? Yes, if you have kids or whatever, if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, ask them to look after the kid for 2 seconds. Go find that space.
Yeah.
It is possible. It's possible to find those spaces.
I always say to people that if you've got a really, really busy life and you really can't find any quietness at all, so you can't like set an hour apart, for example, because it's very easy to say, well, if you don't have 10 minutes to meditate, then you should meditate for an hour. You give me the hour and I'll meditate. You know, that sort of thing. But everybody understands if you say, I need to go to the toilet for 5 minutes.
That's it.
Feel the release as you let the tinkle go.
That's it. Plain simple things.
Use your imagination to your benefit.
Back to timelines. You're explaining
so timelines
dimensions.
are just basically, so there's different dimensions. And we have this idea that all these dimensions are so different because 3D is like this and 5D is like this. But, you know, with the whole thing coming back to the sun and the expression, when you think of the universe doesn't have a habit of just doing things in an individualized way. Which means it kind of makes logical sense that there might be multiple expressions of what we currently have, what we call Earth. And you have to exist in all of those, because if you don't exist in them, then your consciousness can't be there, you know. So maybe when you think about it...
In fact, realities are infinite.
Yes, so maybe
reality
when you think about
infinite.
it, if we have trillions of cells in our body working together to form one body, maybe all of this is just one of another couple of trillion cells of a larger body. And so with timelines, because we have this individualized experience, you're aware of this and of this and of this and then and here and now. So we kind of, I think we're really just becoming aware of ourselves, in fact. How much more we are part of. That we're not just these, you know, little beings that, you know, that God said you go there and be on earth, you bad, bad people. You know? What if that is not the case? I'm not saying that it is or it isn't. All I'm asking you to consider is that, what if we're so much bigger and better and, I don't know, so much more possible than we actually gave ourselves credit for from what we've been taught? And it doesn't mean that those past people are all so wrong and so terrible and so horrible, because maybe they just didn't know. You know, they taught us the light that we knew, which has then brought us to this point and to that point and to that point, because we are copies of each other, you know.
You are not who you were 5 seconds ago, already.
There is actually something
Yeah.
There is actually something I like to say with past life regression, because, you know, a lot of times, how long have I now been practicing hypnotherapy?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. You know, but people always have this idea that in order to find your power, you must go to whatever, standing next to Caesar how many ever years ago. But when you really think about it, if everything is now, 5 seconds ago is your past life.
Which I learned very much when I gave up rituals, and I even stopped following astrology, what was happening in the cosmos. I just wanted to be. I wanted to be whatever I was at that moment in time, whatever I am now.
To experience the
It
now.
helped me to release the fear. As such, my conscious abilities are just naturally flourishing again, without any intention, without any thoughts. It's incredible. It just absolutely is.
And you know, when you go from a point of almost like sort of like observing yourself, and this is something that I find really fascinating. I kind of imagine that this is me and there's a version of me looking at me. Okay, so look at him, he's upset right now. Somebody pissed him off. Okay, let's see what he's going to do next. So usually when he gets upset, he will do that, and that doesn't typically work out that well. Oh, look at him, the boy grew up. Look at him, he learned that lesson, he's doing something different. Okay, so what you kind of do is you detach from being in the moment. So, and it might sound so simple, but when it can be quite hard to do initially. It gets easier with time. So you can practice it in little bits and pieces. And, you know, it's sometimes easier if you maybe do it with someone else. So you look at your child or whatever, okay, so they're doing that, and then practice doing it for yourself. And what happens is you move from, I am so angry, to, I am experiencing anger. So what am I going to do from that?
You know what, most of the time when you do that, you're like, what the flip is this all about anyway? You get over it so quickly, you're like...
So somebody gave me an ugly look. Okay. Maybe it had nothing to do with me.
You start laughing about it, but please remember this. I want to just talk about what Adrian was talking about. But you know me, like I said, I'm the more logical, remember this. Out of, I don't know how many million cells, you made it.
Yes.
You're here. You alone being here is a miracle. Doesn't matter what your life is, what you're experiencing. You are here. You made it through your mother's and father's process of making you.
Because, typically speaking, there are almost 1 million possibilities of who you can be. And, you know, if you like more in our ages, you would have learned in school that it was the strongest swimmers that made it. But here's the thing. The egg cell chooses the sperm cell it's going to let in. You have been chosen.
It's an attraction process.
From almost 1 million of the possibilities, you are the version that didn't only make it, you are the version that was chosen to make it.
Yeah.
So if you've ever felt like a mistake, or, you know, like, I don't know why I'm here. I mean, I've had the experience for many years that I was convinced that when I was made, God must have made a mistake. God must have had an off day that day. But you were chosen. Like seriously, think about it. You were chosen for a purpose.
So as the chaos continues, and as everything in the world unfolds, and the awareness to see the timelines merging, if that's what's happening, just remember or ask yourself, who do I want to be? Who do I choose to be?
Because with change, you always have a choice.
Do I choose to take this with me? Do I choose to buy into what's happening collectively? Because then I might just be a miserable mom, a miserable sister, a miserable uncle, aunt, father, whatever. Because now I'm allowing that to get to me, and it's actually affecting the rest of my family, my friends, my work colleagues, whatever the case may be. And there's nothing wrong. If you choose, there's no right or wrong. If you choose and you want to be involved, because we all play different roles. Some of us came here to be involved. And then you must be involved. Then you must be active. Then you must take a stand, and you must be an activist, because that's the role you are here to do. We need you.
Somebody had to do it.
We need you. We need those people who stand up for what they believe in. Because nothing's going to unfold without those people. We need the activists.
If we didn't have those people, we wouldn't have the internet. We wouldn't be able to talk to you right now.
Exactly.
I mean, can you think about it? When somebody first came up with the idea of the internet, people must have been like, have you taken some really expensive drugs or something?
Like never. Listen, every role that we play in this life is important. Yes. It's all important. We would not have the wars in the world if somebody didn't take a stance. Maybe we wouldn't have even had the change if that didn't happen. Maybe we wouldn't be in a better place if it didn't happen. Maybe we would have been in a worse place.
I mean, the thing is, nobody wakes up in the morning. I mean, some people do. But hardly anybody wakes up and says, oh, what a beautiful day. I love my life. Everything is so perfect. Now let me change it.
Yeah.
And because we are part of nature, when nature is under pressure, nature adapts and nature expands. That is just how it is.
And some of nature is going to eat other nature, because that's the role that nature is there to play.
So when you really think about it, the people that have been challenging you the most, that make you the most unhappy or whatever it may be, when you really think about it, didn't they bring you to a point where you said to yourself, you know what, I deserve better than this. I'm not going to put up with this any longer. I deserve better in my life. Would you have had that thought without those people?
We got choices. We always got choices. Do I want to live with this? Because if I choose to live with this, then I need to surrender to it. Then I need to find a state of peace and happiness with it. If you decide you don't want to live with it, then you have to, the only way to change something is to change it. Then you have to action the change. Then you have to say to myself, I've got to physically do something about whatever's happening. There's always a choice. And neither choice is right or wrong. It's still going to take you in the trajectory of where life is supposed to be for you.
Yep.
Within the theme of what your life is. It's like I said earlier in the video, sometimes we make the wrong decision to end up at the right place. And the right place.
And then the question is, was it the wrong decision to start with?
The wrong decision. You see? And it was the right decision that you later thought was the wrong decision. So it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter. It matters. But it almost becomes irrelevant because you find yourself at different spaces in life. So the most important thing is, while timelines or while the world's unfolding or whatever's happening in the world, it's no longer who am I. It's who do I choose to be? Who do I want to be?
And only you can make that choice.
How do I want to perceive it? How do I want to be involved with it? How do I want to action it? If you decide you want to action it as an activist and you want to stand up for it, then that's good, because everybody else needs you to do that. If you decide I want to be detached from this, I rather just want to be happy with my family and friends, that's also okay. It's either way, it's okay. That doesn't make us less empathetic, doesn't make us less compassionate, doesn't make us less grateful. Trust me,
it doesn't make you less authentic.
Let me tell you something. I'm an Aquarius.
A typical.
And I am a humanitarian. Like, at heart, I will always fight for, like, I go and fight for the underdog, who in my perception is the underdog, who in somebody else's perception is not. So when it's not easy for me to say these things, when I'm talking about what's happening in the world and all of that, I'm very empathic. I feel shit. Like, even right now, I could come into tears because I literally, like, it's so easy for me to, I have to be so mindful, because it's very easy for me to get involved.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. I'm even getting emotional talking about it, because it's so easy for me to get involved. These practices take time and a lot of crying and tears, and that's beautiful for the soul. Crying and tears are beautiful for the soul.
And it took us years to get here. You know, remember we used to have this thing that when we got the realization that by always jumping in and helping people, that you might be withholding
it hasn't
from
worked
them.
in our favor a lot of the
is
time. We've
But,
ended up the bad ones,
Yes,
you know.
that we had this thing of, like, you know, sometimes by just jumping in and wanting to help people, you actually withhold from them the experience that they need in order to live their greatest experience of life. And there were many, many, many times we were like, oh, you fell for it again. You know?
Yeah.
I would say through this time, because it is a difficult time, this is a time where if you even have just that one person that you can support each other. I'm not talking about sponging off each other, but you can really be there for each other.
Who
and
can
you can
hold
be human.
space for each other.
So you can be human.
Without judgment.
Yes. So you don't have to be the spiritualist and this together person, because we all have things in life that we are required to be, you know. But if you can say, like, oh, today's a tough day. I mean, I said to Alandra yesterday that, you know, I'm currently still living in an apartment and I have to take my doggy for like 6-7 walks a day. I was like, this shit is starting to fuck with my mental state. You know, it gets a lot. And you want someone that you can just be human with.
We went out for breakfast this morning, and we were both mindful of the fact that, like, our pets are not in our faces while we're busy eating.
And it was a joy.
It was a nice thing to do.
It was a joy.
You know, it was like, you know, he was like, oh, I don't have my dog here. I'm like, yeah, my cat, when I'm eating, he's like, he thinks he's human sometimes, you know. So, and I think he's human sometimes.
And also
I
actually starting with
myself.
pets, because I've got a Jack Russell. They eat just anything. I always used to joke that this dog has got a, what do you call it, like the system, like works through your body like a an ostrich.
Yeah.
But with everything changing, there are things that I can't eat, and there are things that that dog would eat all the time that he can't eat. Like, he really can't have any processed foods anymore at all. Gave him some recently. He got so sick that I literally had to take him to the vet. So all of life is gaining that higher sort of like awareness that is happening at the moment. So be mindful of yourself, try to be mindful of others, be mindful of your pets, be mindful of your plants. It's happening to everything and everyone. So the fertilizer that you used before on your plant that helped the plant before might actually kill the plant now.
And it's not all bad.
It's not all bad.
Because you're releasing the bad, the good is coming in. So believe in miracles.
So, I mean, think about it. These days, everybody's on about air fryers, and they're so much better than microwaves. But there was a time when a microwave was an outright miracle. I mean, if you had a microwave, you had it all, you know.
Yeah, I think we should wrap up on this one now, because we got so many topics to speak on. But I hope it was useful to you. I hope it was helpful. We don't know everything, but we're willing to share through our own experiences. If there's something you would like us to talk about, a specific topic, or whatever the case may be, tell us in the comments.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get together more often now. As you can see, we have different sort of energies, different points of view, but we we know each other so well that we are able to agree to disagree. You know, sometimes I see the more spiritual and Adrian the logical, and vice versa.
It's usually vice versa.
And that's how we balance each other out and remind ourselves to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. You know, so if there's something you want us to talk about, no topic is off.
I think the one thing that you do not want at the moment is somebody that's going to blow smoke up your ass. That when you're really on a path that is not best for you, they'll be like, oh no, that's fine. That's okay. If it's not okay, so people who let you go in a left side direction when right is better for you, those are not your friends.
Yeah.
And you don't know where that comes from. Maybe in their childhood or whatever. Maybe they had to keep the peace. You know, so I would say be discerning, but be very careful of being judgmental. That's what I would say, because everybody comes from, you know, when they speak about the whole thing, there's a lot of people deal with things that they don't know about.
And everyone got their own stuff going on.
Everybody's afraid, whether they acknowledge or not. I'm uncertain about it.
But we still need each other. Adrian got his things going on. I got my things going on.
It's part of being human.
But we still need each other. I can't be scared to say, I need my friend now. Sometimes he's having a bad day and I need him, and vice versa. Then we hold that space for each other.
Yes.
We hold that space. Doesn't ever matter how shitty we're feeling. We still hold that space for our friend because we understand the importance of our relationship as friends. And that's it from me, everybody. Let us know what you want us to talk about.
Let us know where in the world you're watching from.
Yes, that
we in Cape Town, in South Africa.
You know, maybe you can agree with us, maybe you're not going to agree with us. That's why there's so many podcasts and videos to listen to, because you find the person that you agree with, that you resonate with. And
that reminds you of the magic that you are.
That makes life beautiful. So take care, everyone. Thank you, Adrian. I thought that was a really lovely talk.
Yep.
Take care, everyone.
Ciao, ciao.